What's going on, everybody, and welcome to episode 2 of the Lions H3art Podcast. I am your host, Tawan Spencer, aka Mr. Lionhearted, and today I got a very important topic today: why we should not be sleeping around, or to translate it for some of my homies, why you shouldn't be comfortable with being a hoe. Drop my intro. We gonna be honest today. Yeah.
Like we define it fair, yeah. I know you needed me to be better. Supposed to be raised off of love, but survival.
Once you have a conversation with somebody and you introduce them to a different reality, the mentality changes.
Now look, I cried when I wrote this song, cause I feel I do right, just to right my wrongs.
Again, thank you. Thank you for tuning in. I'm excited to have you here. Remember, if somebody sent you here, you do the same. Share, like, comment, get involved. The more we communicate down in the comments, the more I know what episodes we need and what real conversations we need to have. So I'm excited to have you here, and I'm ready to get into it. This type of conversation is important for us as we navigate mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual integrity. We have to have some type of understanding on not just why we shouldn't engage in certain activities, but what it represents inside of us and to the world that we live in when we do so. So for this episode, there will be 3 key points that I'm touching on. The first one is going to be respect for yourself and others. The second one will be the emotional and psychological cost of this type of behavior. And then the third key point will be on long-term consequences. So key point number 1 is respect for yourself and others. So I guess the message here would be sleeping around. It practices self-harm to yourself and others. It starts to devalue what should honestly be one of the most important things for you to consider in how you're building your life right now, which is where you put your penis at. That should be top tier on every decision that you're making about life. Here are some key facts for you to consider. Sexual relationships involve emotional and physical vulnerability and intimacy. The reason I say that is because so many of us feel like, oh no, we can disconnect. Every person who I've seen engage in relationships like that, the constant sexual exposure turns into more conversations, turns into more time spent, turns into, I don't know where these feelings came from. They came from what you allowed yourself access to over and over again. This is why you have to be very conscious of who you share that part of you with. Another key fact is respecting women. It builds agency and morals and values and how you view women in general. And yes, this means you're going to have to practice it even against women offering it to you, even against your own desires. 1, you should feel like you matter that much. And 2, it's going to be hard for you to respect women if all you're doing is surrounding yourself with easy women. If you're being honest, you've been in this place where now you might be trying to have a relationship, but you can't view the relationship for what it actually can be because of the type of women that you're accustomed to. So a great example of that would be corn. And for those of you that don't know what I mean when I say corn, I don't know where you've been, but we're talking about explicit videos, right? So if you're always watching it and the women behave a certain type of way, when you get around women who might be interested in you, but they don't behave like the women that you see on the screen, what do you do? What do you do? And I get it. We like to think we're superhumans and we can do absolutely anything. When you get in that situation, there will be a freeze up because what you have been practicing will be how you respond when you're in those actual situations. So you've been watching women communicate like and be communicated to in a certain type of way. So when you get in a situation where it's a real woman and you're here as a real man and it doesn't go how you plan, these create issues. So what we are doing in the dark will show up in light. It isn't always about somebody telling your business and you thought it was a secret. Sometimes it's really just being in a situation where you're exposed for you. So we want to practice what we do in private, so when we out in public situations, we know exactly who we are and what we stand for. Now, I know for some of y'all that might be a stretch because in all honesty, it was a stretch for me. We don't grow up in environments where we have open and candid conversations like this on a regular basis. Whether we talking about our music, whether we talking about the homies, whether we talking about just what we internalize as what success look like, we don't always have these conversations about sex and how it connects to us in a vulnerable and intimate fashion. So there's a resource, a book that I actually would suggest you check out. The book is called The Four Loves and it's by C.S. Lewis. And I'm telling you to go check this out because it'll help you get a deeper understanding of love and intimacy and how deep it actually goes. So go check that out. Here's the thing, y'all, and I talked about it some throughout this message. When we practice abstaining, when we practice keeping ourselves away from stuff that we've already recognized is not good for us, it teaches the world what we expect of it. But when you go into these situations and you're just open to whatever happens, it's hard for people to understand or even respect what it is that you stand for as a man. Whenever you say no to everything, it shows that there is a value of something in your life. The same way we don't want to be with a woman everybody's had. It's crazy to assume carrying yourself individually as a man that every woman can have access to would be anything different. You want to put yourself in a position where you understand and recognize your value. Then it turns into a thing where you don't even have time for people that don't operate at the same plane as you. We got to get to that point, fellas. Key point number 2 was the emotional and psychological impact this type of behavior has. And we got to talk about that. I think that might be the only way I'll get through to some of y'all. So we got to spend time on that. Casual relationships often lead to emotional detachment or just carrying on extra baggage. I say that because sometimes I think we believe that if we can just detach with not a care in the world, that we're somehow ahead of the curve, and it's not. Moving like that can create attachments to stuff that's unhealthy or have you in a space where you won't attach to anything because you operate from a deficiency. It's almost like you've got addicted to this behavior so much so that you're not even loving from a genuine place no more. Nothing phases you. Nothing means anything to you. That's not a win. Here are some key facts that you might want to consider. Studies show that casual sex can lead to feelings of resentment, anxiety, or overall basis of fear. Have you ever been the guy that's used to having all these sexual conquests and one time you wake up and you just like, what did I do that for? That's what they're referring to. The emptiness that comes with that because there is no real or basis of anything great going on in this moment. Now this is really important. I need you to really pay attention. If you disregard everything else from this moment, I want you to understand the science of what's happening when there's a dependency on these type of acts. There's a hormonal bonding process that occurs. What I'm referring to is something called oxytocin. During hormonal bonding, oxytocin is released, and this will intensify emotional connections even if you're saying they're not supposed to be there. So what I'm referring to specifically is you're intimate with a woman, you both climax, and then that's the end of that. So what happens is you start to become associated with that feeling of pleasure from that moment. Your body recognizes that individual as something that could bring you pleasure, and now you attach to that. Now here's where the detachment starts to happen, because even though this person reminds you of the good feeling, you're still feeling empty, but you're going to get filled up by something that's still leaving you empty. So this is where the anxiety comes in, the depression, the feeling like you're not really heard, the lack of the connections that you need in your life. Imagine going to a gas station to put gas in your car, paying the person to get a certain amount of gas, putting the nozzle in, squeezing the trigger, the gas supposedly flowing, number on the pump going up to that amount, and then pulling it out, turning your car over and realizing no gas had been put in it. You are literally doing the exact same thing with your mind, with your body, and with your heart when you're giving it out like that.
Hey there, listeners. Are you ready to unleash your inner lion and embark on a transformative journey? Let me introduce you to the Lions H3art Mental and Emotional Navigation by me, Tawan Spencer. This isn't just a book. It's a 31-day guide crafted to help men set daily goals and incorporate mindfulness, social, emotional, spiritual, and wellness practices into their daily lives. Each day offers practical steps to strengthen your mental resilience, enhance your emotional intelligence, deepen your spiritual connection, and improve your overall wellness. Imagine transforming your life, becoming the best version of you, and truly embodying the heart of a lion. Are you ready to take that first step? The Lion's Heart is available now, yes, right now on Amazon. Don't just read, ignite a movement within yourself.
As a young man growing up in different hoods, I remember having conversations with my OGs, whether they was older uncles or the grandpas or whatever, and very seldomly would I hear, you should be a certain type of way because you are valuable as a man. I wouldn't hear that. I was commended by what I had. So if I was with a shorty and she looked good, it was, oh, I see you, nephew, you doing your thing. Nobody asks, do this person make you feel good? Nobody asks, hey, what's the plan that you have for you and this young lady that you're involved in? And yeah, I was young, so I probably wasn't thinking in that deepness, but it doesn't change the fact that I probably should have been. And if you can't get reminded of that with the people who's supposed to be giving you the game, where are you supposed to get it from? The same people that's lost. This is such an important thing because there is so much blessing and curse that come from the women that we choose to be involved with. We got to get locked in on this area. So get to journaling, but really reflect on who you want to be in a relationship and what you expect out of the relationships you're a part of. Really think about the last few relationships you've had and not what you were a victim to, not what they did wrong. Pay attention to patterns. Pay attention to things that you might have done that you just don't want to do anymore and focus on how you can make those things better. What will happen is the more time you spend developing you, oh man, the easier it'll become for you to get rid of things that take you away from that space. But you got to lock in with you. And the final key point, this is key point number 3, the long-term consequences and the legacy that you have to consider. Your actions today shape your future. How you look, what you represent, and your own identity of what you see when you deal with yourself. Nothing is by happenstance. Everything you do will have an impact. Here's some key facts for you to consider. Unintended pregnancies and STDs can alter your life forever. One moment change your whole life forever. Here's what I'll give you, because I'm not open to creating the spirit of fear whenever we're having these conversations. Really look at yourself as a king. I'm saying whether you're 17 and you stumbled on this podcast or whether you're 35 or 40 and considering life. If you are a king, the decisions you're making right now, how does it impact your kingdom? How does it impact your world? If you have a daughter, what type of man do you become in her eyes? I would never introduce my daughter to a woman that I would be uncomfortable showing her, hey, here's what you do as a woman. It's always been my daughter and my mom. You will never know these people if I don't believe in who you are as an individual. This has made a lot of people upset. Boundaries will do that, but it just won't happen. Building a foundation of discipline helps you be ready for marital things. So for those of you that aspire to be married one day, especially in this generation and the time frame that we in, is because what you see is people exploiting fears. And we really start to mentally prepare for the worst of situations. So you have to practice the discipline so you can understand the other thing exists in another person. If you are running around here sleeping with everybody, it's going to be hard for you to accept that your spouse is not sleeping with everybody. Because why would you believe in something that you don't do? Come on, man. She can't be faithful because you can't. So in your mind, it's impossible for her to be faithful to you. And here's the crazy part. A lot of that comes from a fear. Not because of who you actually want to be. Think about it. If you've been in multiple relationships and the most faithful man on the planet in one, and then you're cheating in another, and then you're faithful again, that type of inconsistency should show you, hey, what happens in these moments to where that pattern is interrupted, where I'm no longer walking in what matters to me or my integrity. And you're a fool if you think it's just the woman. Because here's the truth, fellas. No woman should deter you from being who you are. You look better getting rid of a woman that takes you away from who you are, away from the identity that you created, than partaking in behavior that would make you look like you're not who you actually are. Why would you be okay with somebody taking away from who you stand for, big dog? That don't even make sense. How are you really about that life if every time you get in a situation you fold? If you fold like that, something ain't adding up, man. And I'm saying don't let stuff not add up off of you just not being able to control your hormones. It'll be plenty of fine women that'll come across you in your life. But you got to understand your worth and who you are so you don't just react to that. Because I'm telling you, fine does not equate to a lifetime all the time. And that rhymes. My call to action for this would be find resources that help you focus on your family and developing stuff. Man, these are Google searches. There are people that you can go talk to that's trying to figure out the woes and the ups and the downs of being the man they need to be for the people that they love. These are things that we have to practice. Y'all go get the help. Stop assuming that you'll just have it figured out at some point. You got to practice it. You got to practice it. Right? When we look at Steph Curry in the NBA and all the shots he make, we see him take them in the game, but he practiced thousands of those before every game he's in. He practices. So then when it's time to perform, it's nothing. It's easy. It's effortless. But whatever the situation is, he don't put the time in. Put the time in. Visualize the legacy that you want future generations to have. Visualize that. Don't just make decisions for you right now. Really think about what you're trying to leave behind to the little homies, to the nephews, to the yous that's coming with your last name when you're not here. What do you want to make sense to them? And make decisions about that. So I'm about to get out of here, but I want to outline the 3 things that we talked about. The first one was this: respect for yourself and others. We talked about how not having a certain level of respect for you and the people that's around you will have you making these trash decisions and getting lost in lust. And we bigger than that. Second, we talked about the emotional and psychological costs. We talked about the thoughts. We talked about the body and how it responds to these things and how it ended up relating to different emotions, some that we might not even have, that it costs something, that we not just out here doing stuff and getting away with it. And the third was the long-term consequences to our legacy. People will not have the luxury of being able to talk to us about every decision we're made. So some of this will have to be, we're just showing them how it's supposed to look. What it means to be the leader of a household, to be a leader. And we got to practice that. I know it's so much pressure, but we got to practice that in the stuff that we do. And that means how we expect others to treat us, but more importantly, how we show the world they're supposed to treat us, what we do and do not do. So we got to understand the importance of self-respect, of really paying attention to our emotional well-being and leaving a disciplined legacy. Hey, so again, man, I want to thank y'all for tuning in. I invite y'all to get active in the comments. Put questions down there. Say what you feel about it. Tell me about a situation that you've been. Give me everything that you can think of that you might feel in this moment, everything you want me to see. Put it down in those comments. Let's talk about what we should do an episode on. Let's engage as a community so we can get better as a community. I try to do my absolute best not to just be on here faking with y'all, man. I try to talk about things that I know I need to hear, things that I know people have reached out to me about, and I try to be transparent. This is not just me trying to have a podcast. This is us coming together to change the dynamic, to change how we love each other, how we love the women in our lives, and the mentalities that we carry on a day-to-day basis. I need y'all to get active. I need y'all to take it personal. I need y'all to support so we can change things, man, so we can really lock in and be the Lions that we are. So again, thank you. Love you, appreciate you, and until next time, this has been the Lions H3art Podcast, Episode 2, Season 1. Till next time, gang. Peace.